Greetings, Commanders, and welcome to a special Fireside Chat video. Oh, these are my favorite videos. I haven't done one of these in a while. We've been busy. We've been trying to just blurt out content that's important and extreme and right to the point, but not this video. This video, we're going to cover very important stuff, and we're going to take our time because I think it's worthy of taking our time. So if you're just tuning into this video and you're not ready for a long video, I understand. I usually watch longer videos in the afternoons. In the morning, I like to just get caught up on content. So wherever you're at in this video, I want you to know that this video, we're going to be talking about meta. We're going to be talking about what happened with Rogers, with Full Metal being introduced, how the Walker meta is going to be the dominant meta this year, how Infantry is still getting shafted, and how Vega is still stupidly overpowered. He's amazing. I love the fact that Vega is affordable and he hits hard and he's guaranteed hit, and tier 12 is the best ship that works them. I love that about Vega. I do love the fact that Rogers is being pushed out. So we're going to be kind of exploring those topics, exploring gear, and kind of exploring what's going on in the game. And I don't want to rush through it. And in this video, I am going to be talking about all the other commanders I don't normally talk about because they're actually worth mentioning now. I mean, King was once considered a useless commander even after they buffed him because the Rogers meta. But now, since walkers are going to be a big deal and infantry is going to start showing up back on the scene, and that Vegas are using so much dodge, King is actually a really good commander now because everyone's trying to dodge again. Well, King has a 100% chance. It says if you dodge, he does bonus damage. Guaranteed hit and does bonus damage. I don't know if Mind's Eye triggers tear space. I definitely need to confirm that. Check the comments below. By the end of this video, someone will have commented that they have proof. We've confirmed that King's Mind Eye definitely triggers tear space or does not trigger tear space, which could be a deal breaker. So, as far as I'm concerned, it says it's a guaranteed hit skill. I know it goes second. Is this slightly different than a normal guaranteed hit skill? But check the comment below. I'll super like whatever comment is proof that that this skill does work. So, all right, everyone, let's settle in. Let's kind of find a bearing, and we'll just start attacking this Fireside Chat video. First, let's get caught up in current events. The developers told us, well, the developers implemented this new world event, this new PvP event. In 15 minutes it starts. It only is available for a certain time every day. The segments of time are actually listed in the help here, which is quite useful if you're looking for it. Registration is Pacific Standard Time, 4 to 6 a.m., noon to 2 p.m., and 8 to 10 p.m. So 2-hour sections 3 times a day, where it's a 5-on-5 battle arena or 6-on-6 battle arena, which is totally different than Arc of War. It's slightly different gameplay. It's somewhat similar, still troops and commanders and marching and stuff, but there's a mini game going on and there's objectives. So they implemented a new way for us to play the game whenever we log in, other than just farming tiles, resetting tiles, and maybe attacking an enemy ship that shield fell off. There's more to the game now, so we're really happy about that. Our game is always changing. It's good to see that they're adding new things to pique our interests that are relevant to the commanders we use, the troops we've spent money on, the gear we spent money on. So that's good. I think all around, whenever we get a really good patch or update, a lot of players don't respond back to the devs maybe the way we should, because at the end of the day, they care about the money, and at the end of the day, we care about our entertainment. It's not really, doesn't do much for us to say, hey, thanks, because they were doing it anyway. The work's already done, and they don't really care about thanks. They care about money. But at the end of the day, we do feel thankful, and at least we should tell amongst ourselves that, hey, wait, the game is going well. We are getting new content. We like the new content. So if the devs don't appreciate it and they only appreciate money, at least we all appreciate knowing that everyone else amongst us is enjoying this. So I'm enjoying it. All right, there. So after that event came out and the response from the developers about their concerns for the meta of the galactic battle, they asked for help from the community. So we started submitting community ideas, and one of them was to get rid of the Rogers meta. It was super stagnant. God, it was stagnant. I got so sick of the Rogers meta, that stupid defensive stance. He goes immune and then he basically beats everyone, and the best way to get rid of a Rogers is another Rogers or a Reinhardt if you want to trade a bunch of troops, which is a year's worth of healing. It was just, the galactic battle for the high-end players became really stupid. And I say the high-end players, but the players in those guilds we backed those players. We went into the galactic battles. We're there. They need us there. Our ships are high level, and we produce residual points. But also we protect strongholds, and we fight with rangers, and we set rallies, and we harass enemies. We may not have the big armies marching all the time, but we're there, and they need us. We need them more than they need us, but they do need us, all 60, 70, 80 of us. And their success is tied to us. And the fact that it was so boring for these people that have spent tens of thousands of $50,000, $100,000 in this game to just have to play this stupid, invulnerable Rogers meta. I mean, dude, two or three seasons of it, we lost a lot of big players because it got stagnant. Starting with Vera, then 66, then Bingo, then I think Sabet left before Rogers, but Mailgod, is Mailgod still playing from AXR? We've lost a ton of huge spenders in our game, a ton. In fact, like, of the 5 guys that I know quit, I think they made up like 5% or 50% of all the spending in the game. Some ridiculous number. Like, 5% do 95% of all the spending kind of thing. But that has been fixed. My suggestion was actually, I shouldn't say my suggestion. The community suggestion, in a couple of videos back, a couple of people were suggesting to take Rogers' defensive stance from 80 to 60%. So we can still go immune most of the time, but not all the time. I recommended leave it at 80%, but lower the defense amount so he doesn't go immune as quickly. Because just going immune in general is just retarded. But anywho, all right, going back to... I don't think I've ever said retarded in a derogatory term in a video. That just kind of threw off my train of thought. Anyway, so with Rogers now being nerfed by them implementing Full Metal, and if you guys don't know, Full Metal has the ability, I just released a video on this the day before yesterday showing and proving that Full Metal actually removes Rogers' defensive stance. It just removes whatever buffs, whatever beneficial buffs your enemy has, it just purges them off. And that's amazing because not only does it work on Rogers' defensive stack and fix that meta, but it also works against Elf, who is incredibly powerful. Elf's heal at 60% is so ridiculously good and hard to kill, especially in the mid-game, late-game balance meta where defense is really powerful. I mean, the only way to really kill an Elf is like make her get unlucky with triggers and hit her really hard. So Vega basically. And Infantry is going to be able to do okay against her. It feels like the Tier 12 rock, paper, scissor mechanism isn't as prevalent as it was in Tier 2 and Tier 7. Seems like in Tier 12 it's quite a bit different. But that's because we've also polarized builds and gear. But I don't have any Rogers to prove it in my current Ace of Galaxy here. Let me double check here. I thought I had one in here. I might have reset it. Well, anyway, Full Metal resets Rogers' defensive stance, but he also resets Reinhardt's Thorns, Elf's heal, Vega's heal, which is a 20% skill, Plasma's defensive dodge skill thing. What else? What else does he reset? What else? Come on. I know I'm missing something. Infantry. Who's the last in the infantry I missed? Gilly? No, because this debuff isn't an actual troop buff. But so how amazing that Full Metal is doesn't change the fact that he has no effect on Stella. Stella doesn't buff herself. She debuffs the enemy. So Stella's going to be quite good against Full Metal, which is great to see Stella get brought back into the play. And when I say Stella, I mean Elixir too. I think there's an argument for Elixir being as good as Stella. I don't think there's an argument for her being better than Stella. Elixir is as good, but not better than Stella. And it's like Stella, when it comes down to mathematically, her trigger rate on her Wings of Liberty at 60% versus Elixir's guaranteed double strike. Elixir always double strikes, but Stella attacks 2.2 times per turn. So Elixir attacks 2 times per turn. Mathematically, Stella attacks 2.2 times per turn. And Stella hits hard. Maybe harder. No, I think the second time. Anyway, I did the math a long time ago. Stella's 20% better. There you go. You want a rough average, Stella's 20% better. But Elixir's in the conversation because she has that guaranteed double strike. Stella doesn't always get a double strike, especially when you need it most. So, okay. Let's talk what's going to happen now that Rogers is going to be easily countered. So we have Full Metal, and people are, especially Walker mains who are maining Elf right now, who can't deal with Rogers, so they just hide out and hide away from Rogers. They might say, you know, I've got all the gear, I've got all the troops, I've got all the leadership. If I go into full metal, I can deal with the Rogers problem. I could deal with the Elf and Reinhardt problem. Reinhardt shouldn't be a problem for anyone except Rogers. He's not that good, but he's great against Rogers. And his abilities, lowering enemy dodge and crit, is slightly defensive, slightly offensive, lowers their damage, lowers their mitigation. But his 30% skill is the Infantry Awakening, and of course his normal Awakening is the Walker Awakening. So he actually does a fair amount of damage. I think the main problem with him is going to be landing a guaranteed hit. So you're going to have to run Taurus and Leo on him. I don't know if that's necessarily the best. We'll see what happens. I think the high-level players are going to show us. But what's most important about this whole statement is that because Roger mains are going to know that full metals are out there, and that Roger mains are probably sick of playing Rogers. I know they're invested in those armies. They're invested in the Tier 12 airships, so it's hard to change to Walkers. But a lot of those guys have Walker as well, or Infantry as well. I think a lot of them are going to be excited to play a commander that's more versatile than just Rogers all the time. I think we're going to start seeing full metals pop up, and I don't know what penetration does. The new penetration stat, it might break through some more stats as well. I'm not sure. We don't know if penetration works on Rogers' defensive stance yet. I doubt it does. I think it just penetrates defense like Vega's breakdown ability. That's what support was saying. So penetration works like Vega's breakdown. Well, we'll see. We'll see how that works out. Right now, it seems like it is definitely a great stat to have. It definitely scales better into the late game. But we don't know exactly what it does. We don't know if it's absolutely essential. But we do know Tier 12 is really hard to kill. And this penetration attribute may make it far more manageable. So there's that. All right. Taking a step back. In order for the Rogers meta to get shut down, we really need to see some high-level players going full metal and just crushing Rogers. Because Rogers, without defensive stance, is basically a 20% guaranteed hit skill commander who wears a bunch of tanky gear and has no damage. I mean, yeah, Terror Space hurts, but oh boy, imagine Rogers without defensive stance. He's terrible. And full metals are going to just beat the shit out of Rogers. So what's going to happen probably is a lot of Rogers mains are just going to switch over to Vega, because Vega is going to be offensive. He's going to have that one-slot bust capability. It's going to bring us back to Season 2, really, is what it's going to feel like. Because, you know, Vega is just a beefed-up golem now because of how high gear has gotten. So it's going to go back to, like, full metal with his Infantry Awakening and Walker Awakening is going to kind of be like Pictor and Hoodoo was in Season 3 and Season 2. And then you're going to have Vega, who's acting like Golem was in Season 2 and Season 3. And then you're still going to have Stella come back. So it's going to be kind of like a throwback to the original meta from early seasons. So Season 6 meta hopefully is done. We don't have to see that Roger versus Roger, or Roger versus Reinhardt, or Roger versus Vega meta. Ugh! Just gives me a headache thinking about it. But we are going to see a lot more Vega mains. A lot of Roger mains are probably going to go Vega mains. But that's contingent on the fact that people have to go full metal to convince these Rogers guys, like, hey, the Rogers meta is done. He gets crushed now by just a basic full metal. And Rogers doesn't hit very hard. You know, you may not even need to have an equal March full metal against a Rogers. You might be able to do with a half March full metal against a Rogers. So we'll see. We don't know. This is all new territory for us. So, of course, in a month from now we'll know, but right now it's all speculation. So I'm excited. I'm really excited. That's kind of why I wanted to do this Fireside Chat, because we've been talking a lot about it in the community and how stagnant it is, and our fear of, like, big players quitting, because we need them to keep the servers open. We need them to keep spending, and frankly, we need them for entertainment, right? We don't want to see the same thing that we saw for the last year. We want to see something new, and I think full metal is going to allow for that. I think it's going to open the battlefield up and make it so that it's not just Reinhardt, Rogers, and Vega anymore. It's going to be... Are you ready for this? All right, let's talk about all the commanders. I hope I don't mess this up. I wrote this all out on a nice piece of paper earlier, and then I lost the piece of paper. So, unfortunately, I don't have a photographic memory. Let's do it like this. We got infantry, we got Walker, we got airships, right? Number one infantry commander, hands down, Stella. No questions about it, it's Stella. Now, Bullet has a use as utility, but he's not a main commander. You're not running tier 12 with him, so we don't really consider him in this conversation. So there's our number 1 infantry commander. Next to Stella, I want to say Elixir. You can put Elixir in the conversation, but at the end of the day, Stella triggers Tear Space on each of her consecutive attacks. She typically attacks 20% more often than Elixir does, but Elixir does have a guaranteed double strike. End of the day, Elixir is okay, but I still think Stella's about 20% better. It's there. So Elixir gets mentioned, but she's really just a discount Stella, but very close to discount Stella. Like, I consider the X like a discount Stella. Once Stella becomes available to S-Class, you evolve your X into her. Like, most players will start off with Nekajiro, maybe Cerberus for the triple strike, and then they'll absorb into the X. And then one day they'll absorb the X into Stella. She's into the evolution tree if you're into Pokemon, for example. Okay, then there's the infantry class that is like the tempo, which is like Blader and Galileo and Thunder Ray, where every turn his attack and accuracy increases. It never really worked for Thunder Ray. Infantry had too much base attack for his skills to really matter. He wasn't terrible, and Flashlight is base raw attack. Or both enemy units debuff their attack. He is quite a formidable main, but he doesn't have a guaranteed hit skill, and his Light Blade just doesn't. If it was 60%, he's due for a buff. We might see a return of Thunder Ray, but right now, not happening. With Thunder Ray and Echo, I kind of put them together. Echo is a little bit like this, but he has a heal. Still not main worthy. And then you fall into the disabler classes, the Robins and Liliths, which are pretty equal now. I think Lilith is slightly better. And then Sensei is the one that evolves into those two. I have a video on the disabler class if you want to learn more about that. But basically, I don't consider Robin and Lilith main commanders because Lilith and Robin lack a guaranteed hit. They lack the double striking damage to take advantage of tier 12 tear space, what Elixir and Stella make so easy. And they don't make up for the lack of those offensive skills and defensive skills. And frankly, you don't want to play defensive as an infantry commander. But if you were going to play defensive as an infantry commander, there is a different set of troops for that, and that would be Rita and Plasma. Rita and Plasma are kind of like Hoodoo and Pictor, but for infantry, and I'll explain what I mean by that. Rita has a 60% Huntmaster skill. Whenever she dodges, she does riposte damage. Stack her with dodge in offense, and if you can dodge enough skills, Rita actually does a fair amount of damage back, and this skill does beat Roger's defensive stance. But Rogers usually stacks so much HP in defense, it's really not enough damage to make a noticeable difference, and eventually Tyrant Cometh overwhelms. But she is technically an evasive, balanced commander for infantry, but she never really gets used because she just, like I said, she lacks that offensive power, and her defense can be easily overcome with guaranteed hit skills, which became prevalent when we started getting Sagittarius, Gemini, Scorpio, Taurus, Leo, Libra, all those guaranteed hits. It wasn't hard to hit infantry commanders anymore. But the counter to that was, okay, we'll give Plasma his 40% skill instead of 60, the same as Rita, so he'll do riposte damage back, and it beats Roger's defensive stance. But if he loses all of his troops, he explodes and does damage to all the enemy troops. We all know what Plasma does. He's still not a main commander. Not a bad commander, just a utility commander. And he usually trades well as long as your opponent has 3 or more stacks of troops. And you get one shot. You don't want to partially lose troops. So never have too big of a Plasma. Anyway, moving on. I said that Pictor and Hoodoo were somewhat like Rita and Plasma. The reason I say that is because Pictor has Sticky Bombs, which is a 60% skill that is exactly like Hoodoo's 40% skill. Rita has a 60% skill that's exactly like Plasma's 40% skill. You see that there? So not only does Pictor's Sticky Bombs trigger more often than Hoodoo's skill, it also hits 50% harder, or 25% harder. It definitely is 50% better. I know that just on the trigger rate, maybe slightly more. I think it hits harder too. It triggers more often and hits harder. Pretty obvious. Kind of like why Stella is better than the X. She triggers more often and she hits harder when she triggers. Same thing here. Also, Pictor has that sweet 20% guaranteed hit skill. 20% guaranteed hit's not a lot, but it's nice. And it increases his own crit, which isn't kind of useless this late in the game, but it's a guaranteed hit. It's nice to have another guaranteed hit. It's not useless. Pictor, on the other hand, still gets that nice 40% Sticky Bomb skill, but he has a guaranteed Death Rattle skill that if he kills the entire slot, it nukes everything, which is amazing if you can get somebody into a pocket hoodoo trap where you can kill their rangers and they have a big slot of high tier troop and you can use the rangers to blow up the high tier. That's fantastic. But we're starting to see less and less of that because players know that that can happen. And it's easier to do pre-made marches with a higher tier in the front by just pre-made march with like 1 or 2 instead of using a bunch of rangers to fill the slots. So we're seeing less and less successful pocket hoodoos, but they're out there. If you don't know what I mean by pocket hoodoo, watch the video on it. I covered that a while back. But he's a great utility commander. He's not a great main commander. He doesn't have a guaranteed hit. And usually in a toe-to-toe fair fight, Hoodoo's not one-shotting his opponent. So that means death rattles aren't hitting as hard. So he's not getting as much value out of that skill. In fact, I've always considered him kind of a bad main, but he was a very popular main because a lot of people that are really big and they fight lesser opponents, they can just one-shot him anyway. It's like winning more. But he gets a lot of limelight because you see those great pocket Hoodoo replays. And I just realized that Hoodoo's got a bunch of like scent coming off of him. You can see like just odor. That's that teenage Hoodoo skin or whatever. Okay, we covered infantry, right? I think we're pretty much covered infantry. I'm going to catch up to Walker here in a second. So we agreed Stella's the best. Elixir's got an honorable mention. The X is the pre-evolution, and then Cerberus and Nekajiro kind of roll into that. The tempo commanders of Thunder Ray and Echo really never panned out to what infantry attributes mained as. Fabian is a dark horse. Fabian has his acid bomb that works kind of like Vega's breakdown, but we haven't confirmed it's that good yet. But she also has a 20% skill that seems to do the same thing, and it works on all troops. Yeah, it potential here. We just haven't really fully fleshed her out yet. We don't know how good it's going to be, and frankly, Stella's really good right now. So anyway, more on Fabian to come in the future. If you know anything about Fabian or have some great replays of Tier 12, let me know. Okay. Maruko got a big buff, and he does hit really hard now. I don't know if he's going to be, with Tier 12, worth using instead of Stella. We know that Sneak Attack ignores tier suppression like Ghost Cannon, like Bullet Skill. And they did buff him recently, but at a 40% skill, he's just still not worth maining yet. Not at a super high level. So he's in the picture. It's worth mentioning, but not really a part of the equation yet. Unlike Luna, just absolutely useless, not even worth mentioning. Okay, there's a Disabler class, Lilith, Robin, and then Sensei, but they don't really offer anything that the defensive class or offensive infantry class offer, so they just kind of get put on the back burner for now. But still quite good. 60% chance to make your opponent skip their turn. It's really good. I don't know. I'd like to see more Lilith play, but she's got to start hitting harder. And Terror Space on Tier 12 is not hitting hard enough for infantry to really warrant using this type of infantry commander instead of a Stella, because it's a high risk. You got to do a large march, and I don't know. We're just not seeing it yet. And airships have had Rogers had such a dominant hold on the meta for so long. We really haven't seen the prevalence of a Lilith main commander come out, but she certainly could. We'll see. With Full Metal coming out, though, I don't know. It's going to be even harder to go infantry with Full Metal coming out, and the fact that, I don't know. I don't know, man. I think there's a real argument here for Lilith. Just the damage isn't there, but 60% chance to make your opponent skip their turn. More often than not, you're going to make the person across from you skip their turn. That's a pretty big deal if your opponent only goes half as much as you do. That means they trigger half as many skills. Anyway. Okay, and then we talked about Plasma and Rita, the dodge skills, which transitioned us into talking about Pictor and Hoodoo. And I think that pretty much caught up, right? Flare is evolving into Nekajiro. Nothing there. And we're caught up. Okay, so let's talk Walker commanders. Now that Full Metal can disable Rogers, he's a big factor. He's massively at play. But the Elf was always there. Elf has always been a main commander worth maining. We didn't really see much of it until last season in Galactic Battle. A member of, was it CAD or TNB? Had an amazing Elf, and he was just showing it off, and she was so powerful because this 60% skill, he'd buff himself with a heal, and even though he was getting hit hard, Rogers's were still just causing her to heal herself back up. And same with Reinhardt's, she would just heal herself back up. And even against Vega, I think she actually got crushed by Vega. I have some high-level replays. You can just search Elf Vega in YouTube, and you'll see the videos. I have high-level replays in there. That goes for any commander. If you search for any commander, against any commander on YouTube, just the name, like Rogers versus Stella. Actually, I would just write Rogers Stella. You'll be able to pull up all videos of Rogers and Stella. I usually tag my videos pretty well, just so people can use it as a lexicon if there's just anything they're curious about. You don't have to go digging through all my videos. You can just search the keywords. But anyway, Elf's always been amazing. Now Full Metal is going to be amazing because it's going to scare the crap out of Rogers players. And then we know that Hoodoo is an okay main. Not great, not really an okay main, but people main him. Pictor is kind of okay, but it's like my argument is if you're going to main Pictor, may as well just main Moonshadow or Chief. Chief doesn't hit very hard. But if you're going to main Moonshadow for guaranteed hit, it's like, all right, not a bad idea. But who else is there that is a guaranteed hit 40%? Chief. I feel like there's one more. Oh, King. So it's like, now that King's 100% to trigger if anyone dodges, you just stack King full of damage gear, let him miss, hope Mind's Eye triggers, and it hits harder than a base attack. So it's like, if you're going to play Pictor, you're really just getting value out of that 20% skill and a little bit of Explosion and Walker Awakening in the front. King is going to give you that guaranteed hit with his Mind's Eye, and it's going to hit harder, and it's going to always hit if they dodge. And he's got that Walker Awakening already. So the chain sticky bombs are good damage and stuff, but he's still going to get value there. And then his hunting skill, he increases his own attack and crit rate. With crit wither being a thing, this might actually have a little bit of value. Not a lot, but it's a 20% skill. We don't get too excited about him, but it's just worth mentioning. So I really like King in the current meta. So it's like Elf, King, Full Metal, right? I mean, that's as strange as that seems. We're not seeing a lot of it, but now that the field's going to open up and Stellas and Elixirs are going to be more common, Dodge Commanders are going to be an issue, and Kings are going to be really strong. But, you know, and that's because Full Metal doesn't have a guaranteed hit. He's going to rely on gems. And, of course, you know what? I totally forgot to mention Gilly in the Infantry class, but that's just because she's a counter to Stella. That's literally her job. But because Gilly's going to disable gems, she's also going to make Full Metal less useful, and she also makes Pictor and Hoodoo less viable because she just dodges them for the first round. After the first round, though, then they start crushing her. And Tier 12 seems to survive the first round, especially with Gilly because she doesn't hit very hard. So I feel like sometimes these videos just go all over the place. Like, I know where I'm at in my head, but if I was like casually listening, I'd just be all over the place. But if you're still with me or still picking up pieces here and there, or if this is your second or third time watching this video, thanks for being here. We're getting there. We're about to tackle airships. I just want to go through Walker one more time, make sure I didn't miss anything. Rock, of course, is amazing, but he's basically Bullet, but he's a Walker commander. He uses Yetis instead of Rangers. He does Ghost Cannon, but it's called Annihilator Ray, but he gives away points in Galactic Battle. He's great for server-based PvP, but as a main commander, not so much. It just doesn't hit very hard. Exorcist got a buff, but yeah, we still really haven't seen him show us anything spectacular. Maybe in the future, but yeah, I'm not sold on him yet. Not yet. Not until they make a gem that heals or something. I don't know. It's just nothing there for walkers. Oh, and Galileo. Galileo is cool. I mean, he's like the first main commander that comes out and just scares the crap out of everyone. Everyone remembers like the first Galileo they ran into that just kept healing and dodging and getting buff and hitting harder and just started crushing, because Galileo is an amazing commander. With Tier 12's Terror Space, it does change kind of the meta. He doesn't heal off the Terror Space damage. He doesn't have multiple attacks. But he is a good commander all around. He doesn't have a guaranteed hit, but typically he doesn't have too much trouble with accuracy after he has it triggered up 3 or 4 times. So, really like Galileo. But my argument is, if you're going to run Galileo, you may as well run Elf. Just because it's so hard to kill Elf, and she does so much damage with that curse. I don't know. It's really up to you. Galileo is better at one-slot busting. Elf is better at balance. But that's kind of where the meta Walker meta is at. Galileo, Elf, Full Metal, King. I know, right? I'm not even mentioning Hoodoo and Pictor. They're just off the table. Whew. Okay. Just kind of make sure in my head I'm not missing anything. Yeah, I mean, really, it's like Infantry is still just Stella. Maybe one day Lilith. I mean, Elixir, just another Stella. And then it's Walker. You got Galileo, Elf, King, and Full Metal, which I think Full Metal is going to be amazing this season. I don't know how many times I'm going to say that. I'm really excited to see what happens. Now let's talk airships. Well, as always, the king, Rogers, going defensive stance is always going to be scary. If he's not going against a Lilith or a Reinhardt or a Full Metal, then he's going to dominate everyone else. There's ways to beat him by one slot busting him with Vega and Stella and doing that old thing, but that was so Season 5 and Season 6. We're over that. I hope just people start getting away from him. And when they do, they're going to go strictly into another defensive commander, which could be Takeda, which I doubt strongly because he's like a dodge version of Rogers. Or probably into Blader and Vega. Most commonly Vega because he's still a B commander and you can just keep awakening over and over and over and over. So that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking this season when it comes to airships, we're going to see a few Rogers here and there, a few holdouts, but mostly Vegas. Probably not too many golems. Pretty much everyone's abandoned golem at this point. A lot of players, especially walkers, have been stacking HP, and airships have been stacking HP just because Vega is so powerful. And as more people get away from defense gear and start stacking HP, Vega becomes less and less useful, and Golem comes back into the equation a little more. So yeah, it's still better to have Vega, in my opinion, but Golem's not a total slouch. All right, let's talk airship. Anything else in airship? Reinhardt is strictly a counter to Rogers. I mean, he really doesn't hold up against anyone else. His Constellation Bliss heal is okay, but 30% is almost as bad as a 20% skill. We don't get too excited about 30% skills, and I've seen plenty of replays where this Constellation Bliss doesn't trigger. He gets hit 2 or 3 times in a row, and then the slot dies. If the slot dies, he doesn't get the heal off. They never come back, and that's it. Yeah. Blader is still worth mentioning. He's kind of like Galileo for airships. He ramps up, gets stronger and stronger, hits harder and harder. Airships' MO is definitely to be more defensive, and tear space, getting more damage off defense stats, really plays into that. But he does have an ignore tear suppression skill like Rock and Bullet, and it's 20%, so we don't get too excited about 20% skills. But it does hit hard. It does work good. It's good in ignore tear suppression. So I don't mind Blader as a main commander. I just don't think that going against the current meta, he's going to really stand up. So as much as I love a 60% call to hunt ramp skill that he has, it's not really enough to put him in that same class as Vega. I think Vega is just a clear class ahead. Hardest hit in the game. It's a guaranteed hit. He uses tier 12 airships, which are the best troops in the game, and you can awaken him nonstop. I mean, Vega's broken. Vega's just broken. If they fix Vega, then commanders like Lady and Beast and Blader might be more popular, but Vega's super broken right now. It's kind of like Stella. When it comes to infantry, it's Stella. When it comes to airship, it's Vega. When it comes to Walker, we got options. Full Metal. Oh, God, who thought I would ever say that? Walker's been shit on for so long. Walker has Galileo, Elf, Full Metal, and King. Now, Lady and Beast is a lot like King. She has an 80% destructive power skill instead of 100%. And then she has a time bomb skill, which ignores Rogers' tear suppression and kind of triggers like Maruko's napalm bomb. She's okay, not great. I think if you're going to go with a guaranteed hit skill commander like Lady and Beast, you may as well just go Vega. So that's where the airship commander's at. Vega, Rogers. Yeah, there's an argument for Blader, but not a great one. And Darurai got a buff, but yeah, he's got like this soul burn buff. I mean, it's okay if defense meta was like a little better, but he has a shield instead of a heal, and super long games he'll get whittled down by elves and Reinhardts and Rogers. So yeah, not a terrible commander, but definitely one, if you like the defensive style of Darurai, you'll end up playing a Rogers in the future. So that's it. That's the recap of troops. I mean, there's a lot I didn't mention, like, the evolutions. Raymond evolves into Golem and Vega, just a 40% guaranteed hit skill. I don't know if his Deadshot triggers tear space, and even if it did, it wouldn't matter because tear space doesn't hit that hard. Vega makes tear space hit hard. Vega's breakdown hits incredibly hard. I should rephrase that. Vega's tear space is the same as everyone else's tear space, but Vega's breakdown can actually really do damage to tier 12 when everyone else is just dicking around. Woo! Slow down for a second. This is supposed to be a fireside chat. We're going too fast, boys. We're going too fast. I'm going to do a recap here on infantry, walker, and airship. Okay. The new weapon and the new ship hasn't really taken the meta shift in any particular direction. It seems like there was a lot of defensive balance gear put in the game. and Titans, which are super offensive. But this recent patch made it so that offense was going to be king again, which really favors one slot bust, which favors guaranteed hit, which favors the Golem original playstyle, which is where Vega is just going to shine. So Infantry is going to enjoy this. Stella is going to enjoy this most recent meta shift. She's going to love the damage. She's going to love the penetration. You can trigger her guaranteed hit skills, Sagittarius, Gemini, whatever you want to put on her. And she's the defining commander of the infantry class. No one even comes near it. It's not even worth mentioning anyone else. There are chances for other commanders to make a play one day, but right now it is just Stella. That's it. That's what we're going to see in Galactic Battle moving forward. When you see an infantry commander with tier 12 infantry, it's going to be Stella. Then, in the Walker class, we're still going to see Rogers until Full Metal really breaks into the scene. Still going to be Rogers. Big bosses are going to be sitting in big bases with big troops and big gear and big Rogers. That's still going to be a thing. But as the battle goes on and as these players get frustrated by getting dominated by a freaking Walker commander named Full Metal, they're going to start shifting into Golem. I'm sorry, they're going to start shifting into Vega. Everyone in the Golem chat that's watching this video right now is like, yeah, Melt believes in Golem again. I didn't ever stop believing in Golem. Vega got way too good. It's not Golem's fault. He didn't change. Vega just got buffed, and then defense gear got super buffed, and he just uses a defense debuff that breaks defense. It just, man, everything. And then tier 12 airships being the best, and Terror Space working so good with airships because they're HP based or defense based. And then Vega's Awakening being a B class. Like, Vega's just stupid right now. So it's all Rogers and all Vegas and airships. Okay. Then we go to Walkers. It's like Infantry 1, airships, Rogers, Vega, Walkers, King, Galileo, Elf, Full Metal. Pick your poison. I honestly don't love King. I feel like he's going to be a response to when players start really maining Vega, because Vega is going to be Awakening with like 600% dodge, so he's going to dodge everything, and King is always going to have bonus guaranteed hit skills on him. So we'll see. King's going to do all right. Galileo, probably not. I probably should stop mentioning Galileo. It's going to be just Elf, Full Metal, and King. So it's going to be a fun season. We're going to see less Rogers. We're going to see more Full Metal and King. Still going to see, and we might start seeing Stella again. Stella's kind of disappeared for a while, but they were great. They were fun to have. There was a lot of dice rolling. Sometimes you got a good one slot bust. Sometimes you didn't. But that's the meta, boys. I think I covered it pretty well. Did I miss anything? Honorable mentions? Probably not. I think I mentioned Fabian possibly being more useful. Lilith possibly being more useful. Well, there's no dark horses in the Walker class right now. But I think the developers are doing a pretty good job with slowly weaning people off the Rogers meta. But I am a little afraid because it is definitely shifting towards a more and more Vega meta, which is way out of balance right now. Every time I say that, I know I piss off like 7 dwarfs watching the video right now. That's right, you're dwarfs. All you Vega mains, you're dwarfs. All right, so that's that. That's the Fireside Chat. That's the meta chat. That's going into Season 7. We have 51 days left. 50 days left. And then the playoffs start. So, what is that? 5 more weeks? 7 more weeks? 7 more weeks? 7 more weeks, and then the playoff starts. But we're going to start seeing a difference. We will start seeing a difference. Let's jump into a game here. Let's jump into a high-level game and see if anyone is throwing around some big replays. NYC and AXR are playing. WoW is playing, but I think they're running just a Rogers. TNT is playing, same server. HGD Highguard and No One Conka. TLR and CST. Yeah, we're not in a rush. We're on a Fireside Chat video. We can just search around for this stuff. We're just hanging out, right, boys? Just hanging out. And girls, I'm sorry. We have like a 4% demographic of women. Last time I checked, which was about 4 months ago. I should probably check that again. It seems like there's more girls than there actually are. That's usually because they're more social. All right, let's jump into Rock Reapers, and let's see what our boys are up to. Let's see. Do we have any great replays? Let's see. Hey, Pickle Rick's in here. How come I remember Rock Reapers? It's Nick 1990. Show me some T12 for a Fireside Chat. Like how I yell it out, like, verbally, like it matters. And we'll see if we can't see. What do you guys think we'll see? Rogers? Definitely Vega. If there's a tier 12 replay that gets shared, it's definitely going to be a Vega or a Rogers, right? It has to be. How amazing would it be if it was Full Metal, an Elf, and Stella, the return of Stella? Let's see if anyone's even actively playing that might have been older. Yeah, there's some battling going on. And Nick's right by the commander. Oh, there's a Gilly. Watch it be Gilly. Yeah, I don't think Gilly's ever going to make a mainstay until Stella comes back, until dodge is a thing. And I think some of the Walker commanders are going to use a little of dodge. But I don't think enough to really warrant Gilly disabling gems. That's like her main shtick, is she disables guaranteed hit and then just dodges away for a round, which is really good. Gilly's amazing when it's just one troop versus one troop. You're doing low leadership marches, but in full army marches, you do not want to get caught with Gilly in the second round. But I don't think I'm going to get a replay here. Looks like looks like they're just doing their own thing, or maybe not watching. Maybe they don't like me. That's probably what it is. Oh well. Anywho, let's wrap this video up. I'll show you guys something that I've been working on. Shh! Don't tell anyone. Okay, I have been attacking tier 12 or tier 11 for some time now. I'm finally on Advanced Infantry Defense 5. Once this finishes, and I could finish it right now with a speed up, I could. The problem is, in order to unlock tier 11, I need 30,000 unlimited crystals. So we got a ways to go, boys. We got a ways to go to get tier 11, but we're getting there. We are getting there, and when we do finally get Eye of Greed, who should we main? Probably Stella. Probably Stella. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Remember, tier 12 or tier 11 infantry works with Walker commanders too. So that's worth mentioning. And I can use all my infantry research on them. So I've got options. I got options for days. So anyway, thanks for watching this Fireside Chat. I hope you guys enjoy them. I certainly like making them. I like making them more than anything else. Kind of feel like it's a good way for players to sit down and talk about what's going on in the game, because a lot of my thoughts just come out of reading line chat and Discord and YouTube comments all day, every day, for weeks and weeks and months. And they just conversations I have in my head that eventually I just blurt out to you guys. And you guys are going to hear this. You're going to go down in the comments. You're going to write, oh, Melt, you were right about this. You were wrong about that. Do that. If you're hearing me say that, just go do that. Help me out. Put something in the comments. Upvote a comment you like. I'll super like the best ones. But then, you guys comment. I read them. I'm not like a YouTuber that has 1,000 comments in an hour. I usually get like anywhere from 5 to 30 comments, sometimes a couple hundred if it's a really good topic. But I read them all. I read them all, and I appreciate it, guys, because it helps kind of guide the channel and what the community's interested in talking about and kind of where we're going with it. And that's why we do this. That's the funnest part. The gameplay, not as exhilarating as actually being a part of a big community and watching the game change and grow and seeing what players are up to and players are doing. Because I don't know, maybe humans are social animals. What do I know? But it's been a joy. It's been a pleasure. Thanks for being here. And that's the end of the Fireside Chat. So until next time, my name is Melt. I've been your host, and we'll see you later.